Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
BrainShare Business Mentors proudly presents BrainShare.us, the ultimate business education platform, delivering the proven systems, processes, tools, and knowledge that empower you to build the business of your dreams. With 13 high-powered courses encompassing over 240 lessons accessed online on your schedule. Running a business is the hardest thing you'll ever do. We've helped thousands of business owners gain the leadership, communication, and business skills needed to build the business of their dreams. We can help you. Choose your learning path. Scuba Squad is the premier membership program for today's business leaders with access to all BrainShare material and double our money-back guarantee. BrainShare Basics, the ultimate business framework course, a hard-hitting 13-week program to lay the necessary foundation to build the business of your dreams. Or take individual courses as you need them. Every course has dozens of lessons, with video, practical exercises, precise documentation, and the opportunity for direct feedback from a BrainShare mentor. All programs have our exclusive 30-day money-back guarantee. No questions asked, don't wait. Choose your path and start today.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. Doing business in life with a purpose, serving others and achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. We created this show for you because we want everyone to be motivated, inspired, and educated. Do you see how I use the EDs in every one of those? Pretty cool. To learn how to do business and live life to make an impact in the world. I want you to think about, as you listen to my incredible guests today, how will you serve today? And what impact will you create from that service? And I want to thank my sponsors, BrainShare.us, build a business that works without you. Discover how to create a self-sustaining business that thrives even in your absence. You can have a business that doesn't tie you down. We'll guide you through the steps to build an enterprise that operates smoothly without your constant oversight. Visit BrainShare.us to learn how to set the foundations for a business that stands the test of time. With BrainShare Business Mentors, you can build a business that works without you. And PitchDB, successfully connect with over 11,000 conferences, 3 million podcasts to be a guest and build your thought leader platform and also scale your business. Increase your network will increase your net worth. And I'm excited to have my guest on today. We've been trying to connect, but Mike Regina, shout out to you for the referral and the connection. Finances are a pain in the butt. I said it. And you always need help. I need help. That's why I have finance people out there. And this is what my guest does today. And he does a great job at it. Jim, welcome to the show.
Steve, thanks so much for having me, man. Excited.
I am too. Finances are a pain in the butt, as I said. Why are they a pain in the butt?
You know, I would say they're not, except that nobody has time for it. You know, the group of folks that we have the privilege of serving are entrepreneurs, business owners. I would say in most cases, they're not sitting around twiddling their thumbs, waiting for something to do. So I would say maybe the biggest aspect of being a pain in the butt when it comes to business finances is really time, attention, and capacity. And you know, it's a struggle for all business owners.
Yeah. And I'm glad you answered it that way, because that's what I meant by it. And right when I said it, I'm like, it's not a pain in the butt, especially for you, for everybody. But how much is it needed? Of course, I say everybody's in the people asset business. You need a servant heart to develop relations. But the next really 1A is finances. You need to make money to live. You need to make money to grow your business. How important is it to you?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. I mean, especially if you are a business owner, you have a team, you have employees, you have customers or clients, vendors and suppliers. the network that relies on the viability of your business is significant, right? So, although it may not be the mission of your business to be profitable, the profitability of your business will enable your mission. And I think for the way that I see it, at least, that's really, it has to be prioritized. And I think most business owners know that. I mean, it's no secret that your business can and should be profitable, but the attention to profitability at scale is another thing.
Yeah.
Even the way you introduce this podcast, being able to run your business while not necessarily being in it all the time. I heard it recently said that, a lot of small business owners in particular, they subsidize their business with their time, with their finances, because the business isn't really scalable, right? And
Yeah.
because it's not scalable, we just default to say, you know what, I'll take that on. I'll take that. I'll bear that burden. I'll take that from the employee that can't do it. I'll take that, financial hit because the business can't. And I think that's such a shame, right? Because the business should be profitable. And, it goes back to our mission. So our mission as a company, Backbone CFO, so we provide fractional CFO services, but here's why, right? We want to help our entrepreneur clients grow by 10x so that they can fulfill their purpose and passion. The truth is, there's a person behind every business. And you've been placed on earth by God to do something incredible. You have unique gifts, skills, and talents. Your business is an aspect of that, but you're a human being and it goes beyond your business. So your business should be an enabler of all those things, not a detractor.
That's so well said. And that leads back to COVID. A lot of
Mm,
businesses closed. If COVID wasn't there, they'd probably still be in business. But what could a backbone CFO, but more important, handling your finances right, help those businesses? And could have. It could
yeah.
have done it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, looking at a global pandemic at this
Yeah.
size and scale, I don't want to at all allude to the fact that Backbone CFO could have saved your business if maybe your business went out. That being said, maybe some of whether it's COVID, so maybe a downturn, but then also think of like an upturn in your market. The fundamentals of business finance don't change. And I think where things like COVID really just throw a wrench into a business is when there's already a systemic problem, namely, as it relates to what we do in business, which is financial planning and forecasting, financial projections. Those things, by and large, at least with the clients that we work with, they don't exist. They flat out don't exist. So, and we're not working with huge companies, right? So our market, Steve, just to give your audience a perspective, we're working with a lot of clients who are in trades, contractors, home builders, professional services, right? And the revenues are, somewhere between 1 million to 20 to 30 million. So we're not talking huge businesses, right? But we're also not talking necessarily mom and pop businesses either. We're kind of talking about that middle ground.
Yeah.
And even there, where there's substantial profit and revenue, a lot potentially, good amount of employee base, the I'll say the foresight and financial planning just is an extreme lack. And I think part of the reason for that is that business owners, again, don't have the time or capacity to necessarily focus on that because they're going out selling the next job, hiring the next employee, doing the things that they need to do to grow and sustain. And that financial piece, that pillar tends to take the back burner in most scenarios.
Yeah. And I love what you said, things like COVID, because something else is going to come down the road in 25, 26. We just don't know.
That's
And I
right.
like that you said that and you made that point. The other thing, too, is I love that you work with small, medium sized businesses because a Google can make an error in their finances and it's minuscule
Yep.
to me. And tell me if I'm right, but a small, medium sized business makes that same error. It could bury them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say it's not uncommon, right, to run across the business owner in the size that I'm talking about. And unfortunately, I hate to admit this, most of these business owners, especially when they're growing, right? When you grow, your resources are constrained. And that's sometimes a good problem to have, right? We're growing, we have a lot of new projects, a lot of new customers. We have to bring on a lot of new employees. We have to reinvest our profits if we have profit. We have to reinvest it back in the business to buy the next technology, marketing, all the things, right? And that's good, but to your point, if you're not planning and you don't have any financial foresight in place beyond next week's payroll, then the smallest thing could hit and it could really throw a wrench in, throw in COVID or anything to that magnitude, and now you're talking significant issues, right? Significant issues.
Right. I love what
And
you're saying.
I'll add too, because you mentioned COVID, what masked a lot of those problems, and even when businesses didn't go out of business, but they were just hurt, was they were taking on money, public money, that kind of put a big band-aid over a lot of those things. But here's what happened, and it's still happening. Not necessarily all a bad thing, but that money was used for essentially working capital or continuing to run the business. Now the business owner has a debt or a loan on the balance sheet that they essentially use to maintain operations, whereas that really should have been used in a conventional sense to build up some kind of business asset, to invest into furthering the business growth, not just to essentially get through a dip. And then you come out of that, now your balance sheet's a bit upside down. You have this debt that I'm kind of saddled with. And some of it's not small numbers. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. And that's now in repayment for most of those business owners, whether it's an EIDL loan, whether it's a PPP that wasn't forgiven. So these things can become burdensome. But again, I think it kind of all goes back to the basics, having some kind of cash flow forecasting in place, financial projections in place. Those are like the baseline tools that, regardless of the season, regardless of the challenge, they go a long way in helping mitigate and navigate, I should say, through those things.
I'm losing sleep as I talk to you. As a business owner, I mean, I could, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you hear that, and you're
Yeah.
my sleep genie to make sure I get sleep. And it's interesting with the finances with small business, they throw bad money at good money. Is that the phrase? Right? And that's kind of what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah, I would say so. So we talked about COVID, but let's get off
Yeah.
that, because that's one thing. But even now it's 2024, we're removed from that scenario. And listen, we get into situations where a lot of clients that we're dealing with, they maybe take customer deposits, kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? You're kind of taking
Yep.
one set of finances to pay for something that should have been funded by some other mechanism previously. But it's a vicious cycle, or it can be. And then maybe it's really trying, and you're going out and getting hard money, or you're going out and getting term loans to again fund working capital because the business itself, for whatever reason, can't do it. By and large, a lot of times that's because things haven't been evaluated along the way. Overhead cost exceeds sales, overhead growth exceeds sales growth. Profitability of your jobs or product and service haven't been evaluated, sometimes over years. And that's a big mistake that has a compounding effect. And it's hard to unwind all that, at least overnight.
Man, if I had a business, I'd hire you right now. Yeah, I said it publicly because you're saying all the great things that people need to hear. So somebody's listening and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Jim just described my company.
Yep.
What do you do with Backbone CFO?" And say, "Okay, Steve Ramona, kind of take me through the journey. Don't give the secret. Well, you give the secret sauce, but the journey of Jim, I'm there. What do we do? I'm freaking
Yeah.
out."
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing to know, if your audience is listening and you're saying to yourself, "Man, that's me, or that's my business. I'm in it, or I've gone through it, or I'm in it right now." Here's the good news. It's likely, especially if you're in that range that I mentioned before, you're doing a few $1 million in sales or more, you have an employee base, you have a market that's established, right? Those things are present. In my opinion, you've already tackled the hardest problem, right? I heard it recently. I think it was from Vern Harnish that, what is it? 4% of businesses, only 4% of businesses ever get to $1 million in sales, and 0.4% of businesses ever get to 10 million. So, I mean, we're talking about you're in the top 1% in my mind in terms of just being an entrepreneur and getting to this size and scale. So good on you. Don't let these seasons that are challenging or trying get you too far down. Recognize where you are, appreciate the team that you have, appreciate the customers that you have. So I would say that's the first thing. Just establish a sense and posture that I've been blessed, that God's with me. and that this is not the end. So I would say that's first and foremost. If you work with someone like us, what I would say is we have a very distinct or systematized onboarding process for our clients. And what we do is we go through what we call, and not, we didn't make this up, it's a management technique, but it's called a balanced scorecard approach. So we take a look at the 4 quadrants of your business. And by the way, every business, regardless of industry or shape or size, has these same 4 quadrants. And those quadrants are revenue generation, operations, people, and finance. So we do a quick evaluation of each of those quadrants of your business. So we might look at your revenue generation and say, hey, maybe you own a plumbing business, I'm making it up, but how do you price your jobs? What does your sales pipeline look like? How do you manage your active contracted backlog of jobs? How does your overhead get baked into your pricing, and what is your profitability? Do you understand these things, and how often do they change? I can't tell you how often I've run into business owners and say, hey, I priced it this way and I've been doing it that way for 5 years. And I simply ask the question, has nothing changed in 5 years? Has your cost hasn't gone up in 5 years? The market hasn't changed in 5 years? Your suppliers charge you the same amount for? No, of course not. It's just one of those things that gets overlooked. The shop rate's $75 an hour. Why? Because it is. No, it's not. And so again, these are little things that we would evaluate. How is the operations of your company working? I see a lot of times there's just poor management in terms of workflow, capturing all the costs in your jobs, making sure that you're billing that onto your customer. With the people aspect of your business, how is compensation arranged? Is there any incentive for your employee base to help you grow your business the right way? Right, I think it's really key. And then, of course, in finance, right, are your books clean? Do we have good data to work from or evaluate at all before we go doing anything crazy? Do we even know where you stand right now? And if not, how can we help you out of that? So that's the process that when we get a new client, we go through those 4 quadrants. It takes about 30 days. And once we come out of that, I joke with all of our clients, kind of tongue in cheek, because part of me, the prideful part of me says, yeah, this is it. We know your business better than you will. We go through those 4 quadrants. We interview key people and stakeholders in your organization, and we feel very comfortable that we are positioned now to advise you on how to, if you're in that cash flow crisis, let's say, how to advise you out of that. We might put a 13-week cash flow forecast in place that we update on a week-to-week basis. Maybe you're not in a cash flow crisis, but you have significant opportunity in front of you. Maybe acquisitions are on your mind. Maybe exit is on your mind, which it should be at some point. We've done a lot of research and we found that people either die or they sell their business. And, but either way, you're transitioning somehow. So we might as well think about it in advance, right? And how do we plan for those exits, and how do we plan for those transitions, and how do we maximize the return on the thing that you've been building potentially for years? And that could be a legacy thing for your family. It could be a legacy thing for the next generation, or your employees, right? So for us, that becomes a real strategic conversation to say, all right, well, let's start looking forward. How do we look at, let's say, 6 to 12 months out, start putting some financial projections in place so that we know, and we actually create some financial visibility in your organization. How do we capitalize on the opportunities that you have in front of you?
I like that you work with systems too, because I think finance and systems go together. Like you said, how much is $75? If they just bump to the $25, to $100 and 25 a job, they do 100 jobs. It's, I can do those numbers pretty quick. It's going to increase your bottom line, which is the bottom line is the most important. Let's get out of fire. I mean, I know your business. By the way, I got some referrals for it. I'm going to say it publicly. That's what I do as you're talking. So if you're in a trade, reach out, because the problem with trades, they're great plumbers, they're great walls, roofers, they're great air conditioning guys, they're great. Even the thumbs up on my Zoom's coming up. But I know a lot of them, and they don't know bit. I mean, they don't, because they came in and started putting roofs on, right?
Yeah.
What is business? I just hire some guys, they help me, I pay them. No, it's not that simple, obviously.
No. And I'll tell you what, partnering with a fractional CFO or any business advisors, like that's not a shameful thing. Again, we're talking about you've gotten your business to a certain point that has a significant threshold, right? That's amazing. I would challenge you, if you're a business owner listening, how much more is there? How big should your business be? What should
Yeah.
you, as the owner, as the CEO of the company, what should you now be focused on so that you can continue in that scale and that growth? And I would probably argue that some of these things are probably not what you want to be focusing on or should be focusing on. You should surround yourself with others who can help expedite the process for you, take a lot of aggravation and stress away from you. And then, again, and you may have that even in other aspects of your business where you just need to find a who, as Ben Hardy might say, and not try to figure out how, right?
Yeah. This is not a place to DIY. This is not a
No,
place to go to YouTube and go, be my own CFO.
nope,
No, go to the gym because
no.
it's important. If you screw that up, you're done.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, I love this. Let's talk outside work. What does your Friday night look like?
Friday night. So, Steve, I don't know if I told you this, but so I'm married, been married for almost 13 years.
Congratulations.
We have
That's
five
awesome.
children. So I have to be honest, in my mid 30s at this point, my capacity to stay up past like 9:30 is really limited. And when I do, which may be like a Friday or Saturday night, it's really just hanging with my wife. We're definitely homebodies, by and large. So, we might be watching like The Office or like some movie that we've watched 100 times, but we don't do anything crazy. But I will say, like, my wife's my best friend, and her name's Becca, and Becca and I will just be kind of hanging out in the living room. I do like to bake pepperoni bread. It's like my thing. So it might be like a Friday night, and she's like, "Hey, let's, kids go to bed. Hey, let's make some pepperoni bread and just hang out." And I'll just like, we'll be sitting in the kitchen. I'll make my pepperoni bread for us and just chatting and then maybe watch a movie. Yeah.
Man, I wish you lived closer. I love pepperoni bread. Being Italian
Oh
doesn't
man.
hurt either. Oh, it's so good. Can't have a lot of it, but it's so good.
No, that's
The
true.
other thing that's people listening are startups or people thinking to start, hey, I don't want to be 8 to 5 anymore. You talked about in the green room before the show about the challenges to start a business. What advice can you give and what did you learn?
Yeah. Yeah, man, I struggled with that for a decade before doing what I'm doing now. And looking back, I was just talking with someone about this the other night. I would say, number one, just, and this is coming from a faith perspective, know that you don't need to do anything or achieve anything more than what you're currently doing to be loved by God. I think for me, I don't know if you have a lot of folks in here that are like type A, high achievers, right? You kind of always want to be on to the next thing. Like the current victory lasts for like 4 seconds, then you're kind of on to the next one. There's some good in that. But the challenge with that too long is that you always kind of have this perspective that you're chasing. Don't chase it, just be confident and content with where you're at right now, and then move from a posture of contentment and not a posture necessarily of frustration. I think you'll go a lot further, a lot stronger. But that being said, if it's on your heart to do something like entrepreneurship, start a business, um, I couldn't vouch for that anymore. I love it. I think it's a fantastic thing. I think in our country, we've taught our children to mitigate risk so much that we don't really give it a go. And to me, it's such a shame because you learn so much about yourself. Learn so much about God
Amen.
when you
Amen.
kind of jump out and do something that you've never done before. And the chance of risk is extremely high. I used to joke with my wife the first couple of years in business. And this is now it's funny. At the time it wasn't, but I would always say like, "Hey, it could all fail tomorrow." They could, all the clients, all the employees, they could just, well, tomorrow it's very possible. There's nothing stopping them to just knock and say, "Hey, we're done," and I'm out. It's all over. I don't got a paycheck. But the truth is that, for me, I've learned to really, really trust in God. For me, it was, Proverbs 3:6, which says, "In all your ways acknowledge the Lord, and He'll make your path straight." I felt like the Lord said, when it was time for me to start my business, He said, "Hey, if you acknowledge me, I'll make your path straight." And I was like, "Oh, cool, cool, God. I've been doing that my whole life." He's like, "No, no, no, no. Like, acknowledge me." And I really just sensed it was like, talk about me, use your mouth and the vocal cords in your neck and speak. So it got really awkward in the beginning. I'd be on sales calls and I'd be like halfway through the sales call and I was like, I didn't say anything about Jesus yet. And I would just stop and say, hey, maybe I forgot to tell you the fullness of my story. Part of the reason I started this company is I'm a Christian. I was just really felt and prompted to trust God. I quit my job mid-career as a vice president of finance for, nearly $1 billion company. And I started little old Backbone CFO with nobody. And it was just, and I'll tell you what, it's always been a great story. And it's always made a lot of impact with whoever I've talked to, and whether you're a Christian or not, I think you can kind of relate to the idea that, there's something significant in building something bigger than yourself. And for me, again, this is just my story. The company's not called Emmerich, consulting. And there's a reason for that. I always felt when I started the company, it wasn't about me. And if it was going to be about me, it was going to fail. But if it was just about building something bigger than myself, then it would sustain, it would have some significance and vision. And yeah, that's kind of been my story. So if you're thinking of doing something similar, I would encourage you to do it from a place of contentment, but go for it. Give it a go. Be strong and courageous. Trust in the Lord, and He'll provide.
That is, we're going to end the show there. But one thing you said I want to bring back is the 4-second rule. How many times have we bought a car and that first week, with the car smell, and then a month later, it's like driving my Tesla, driving my Dodge pickup, whatever that is. And that's so well said. We always are trying to find that next victory. Find it, but with the backbone of the Lord. I'm going to use your name, backbone of the Lord, to move you to that next victory. I want to thank you, Jim. You're definitely not a typical finance guy at all. And I think the audience saw that. And how can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way would be to visit our website, www.backbonecfo.com. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. You can search my name. It's right up here, Jim Emerich, Backbone CFO. You'll find me active there for sure. But either way is great. We'd love to connect.
Yeah. And I want to say, finance guys are great. If you want to be in your office, a CPA, and you just run a number, that's beautiful. But, you got to relate to people. And that's where I really see you, Jim, is relating with people. And don't forget, I talk about podcasts all the time. Jim, I wrote some notes down here. There's 2 or 3 minutes of $1 million ideas that you could just take and run with. He's not unhappy. I won't be unhappy if you just listen to part of it, but he'll use the reverse and forward buttons to listen to that over and over again. Maybe it's the faith part. Maybe it's the finance part. Maybe it's the startup part. But utilize that tool. It's free to you. That's the power of podcast. Don't forget about my swag, T-shirts, hats, hoodies. There'll be a link in the chat. Don't forget about my TV show, Together We Serve. It's on Apple TV, Roku, and all those streaming services. It's on Fridays, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. And as always, I want to thank you for watching or listening to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. We'll see you at the next episode. See y'all.